Hey everyone, it's Jeff Young, kinesiologist, and this is the last in a series. It's part 3 in a series of videos on how to properly and efficiently design resistance training programs for general and special populations. In this video, I describe the 4 to 8 repetition range, but please keep in mind that to really understand the points I'm trying to get across in this video, it would be really beneficial to watch the other 2 parts of the series so that you can better understand how the higher and the moderate repetition ranges better prepare both your mind and your body for when you're training in these lower repetition ranges with heavier weights. So with that said, I'll just let the video explain exactly what I mean. In the previous related videos, I explained how to set up the 13 to 15, 10 to 12, and 8 to 10 repetition ranges, not only for variety and efficiency, but also to prepare the body for the higher intensity and heavier loads in the 4 to 8 repetition range. In this rep range, we were moving away from moderate loads and towards heavy loads, especially during the phase where you're training at 4 to 6 reps. The adaptations in these rep ranges are also moving away from local muscle endurance or strength endurance and towards neural adaptations such as increased neural drive. Increases in lean muscle tissue are also occurring, but may not be as optimal as they are in the 8 to 15 repetition range, especially when you get below 6 reps per set. It's extremely important to train in the 4 to 8 range because this is where strength, bone health, nervous system health, and the health of secondary soft tissue, such as tendons and ligaments, are really improving. And the cool thing is, the 13 to 15 range prepares both the mind and body for training at 10 to 12 reps, which prepares the mind and body for training at 8 to 10 reps, which prepares the mind and body for training with these heavier loads. So when you train in the 4 to 8 range, you've been primed and will really reap the benefits of strength training. On a related note, when I was a student at Penn State, I was involved in what at the time was the longest strength and conditioning study ever performed under the direction of the premier strength and conditioning researcher in the world. More specifically, I was involved in all aspects of training and testing with the group that trained in this repetition range. The other groups trained in the higher repetition ranges with moderate and light loads. The group that trained in this rep range ended up significantly outperforming every other group, even in tasks that weren't related to the exercises they were performing in the gym. So this rep range is truly the sweet spot for maximizing most of the adaptations that you want to maximize. Since there's an inverse relationship between volume and intensity, and the intensity is high when you're lifting these heavier loads, you want to make sure to slightly decrease overall volume so that you don't overtax the joints and central nervous system. Some of the decrease in volume is happening naturally because the repetitions per set are lower as compared to lifting lighter weights, but I also usually suggest performing one less set per major muscle group in at least one of the weekly sessions, although that's something that the individual can tweak themselves. It's just something to be cognizant of. Rest between sets per muscle group should be no less than 2 minutes, and preferably closer to 3 or 4. Since local muscle endurance is no longer a goal, you don't want to be fatigued from set to set, so you want to maximize rest periods and make sure that when it's time to train a muscle group that you've already performed a set for, that it has had plenty of time to recuperate from the previous set. Exercise selection is going to move further away from unilateral exercises. The emphasis should now be on the bilateral primary exercises, such as squat and deadlift variations for the lower body. For the back, it will be standard bilateral pulling exercises. And standard bilateral pressing exercises for the chest and shoulders. A general rule of thumb for assistance exercises is not to perform them at less than 8 reps per set. So if you decide to include assistance exercises in these rep ranges, most or all sets should be in the 8 to 12 range. I also wouldn't overdo assistance exercises in these rep ranges. Your body should already be physically prepared because of the work you've put in when training with moderate to light loads in the higher repetition ranges and all the assistance exercises that were part of the program. Reducing the amount of assistance exercises is another way to reduce overall volume and the associated fatigue. Since rest periods between sets are longer and overall volume is lower, focus can and should be placed on increasing strength. Like with all rep ranges, the lifter should make sure they are lifting more weight with each exercise at the end of this phase than they were during week 1. In the 6 to 8 repetition range, the phase length should be at least 3 weeks and preferably 4. In the 4 to 6 rep range, I'd recommend that the phase length is about 3 weeks. Also, there will be less ebb and flow between session intensity. Reps are low, and because of that, you'll only be able to terminate sets 1 or at the most 2 reps shy of repetition maximum. In a total body format, the primary way the flow of a session may change is that the lifter has the time to try set, where they would cycle through a set for 3 different muscle groups, and then cycle through the same 3 muscle groups again for the prescribed number of total sets. A common example that I use for my clients is to tricep between legs, back, and chest until they've completed the number of sets that I prescribe for them, such as 4 sets of each. And then we'll tricep between shoulders, hip abductors, and calf raises for the prescribed number of sets. For example, 4 sets of shoulders cycled with 2 sets of hip abductors and 2 sets of calf raises. So that's a general overview of how to set up your program in the 4 to 8 rep range. As I mentioned previously, this is the sweet spot range for the most important resistance training adaptations, so with few exceptions, this rep range shouldn't be avoided. Some people may need to avoid the 4 to 6 range because of joint issues, although if joint-friendly exercises are being selected, joint pain can be avoided in any rep range. But most people, even special populations, can progress to training in the 6 to 8 repetition range, especially when they are terminating sets a couple reps shy of repetition maximum. And when you combine what's happening in this range with a program design with light and moderate loads, as I described in part 1 and part 2 of the series, it creates a comprehensive and common sense picture where the overall program revolves around primary exercises, but includes training with joint-friendly assistance exercises and in each plane of motion, all of which sets up the body for strength and overall health. So the sum total of this 3-part series explains how to properly design a linear periodized program in a way that's safe on the joints, gives you plenty of variety, trains in all 3 planes of motion, and optimizes the adaptations in each repetition range to build a nice foundation of strength and conditioning. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.